Hello Year 12. This is the task that I set for you yesterday, and I'm going to show you what I would do with it. So you can see here in the longest memory, Mr. Whitechapel, where's the topic sentence? It needs something that ties this all together. Obviously you haven't got an essay prompt to write to, so that sort of makes it easier because you can make up your own prompt that you're writing to. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to think about, now this is obviously a body paragraph about loyalty. So I'm going to say something about in both the, actually I'm going to use TLM because I'm in a body paragraph and I've already in my introduction called it the longest memory once. So I'm just going to use the acronym. That's okay. And then when you get to the conclusion, you'll use the long version again in both TLM and the 7 stages of grieving. I guess it would be the acronym. Doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Use the same acronym all the way through. The 7 stages of grieving. Actually, should I make that a number? Maybe. Doesn't matter what you do. I think S is easier. Um, just be consistent. Both the longest memory and the 7 stages of grieving, people are rewarded for showing loyalty in the form of respect. Okay, so now I've got an idea, and it's not about one text or the other, it's something overarching for both. Now the next bit of this body paragraph, and yes, that's correct, this is a prepositional phrase and it needs a comma. So here we've got an example. So Mr. Whitechapel is rewarded for being loyal by being given respect. A quote from the plantation owner says Mr. Whitechapel is loyal beyond requisition of duty. But it doesn't explain how he's shown respect. It's sort of like we've got the quote plonked in there and we've got the example quoted, or not quoted, given. This example and evidence and explanation, it needs to be all blended into one to create analysis. So I'm going to go now and have a look for a better quote because I don't think this quote's the best. They've just found a bit of a quote, maybe they needed the more important information than this, or more profound wording to do with, it doesn't have to have the word loyalty in it at all. So I'm just going to go and do that now, and then when I come back I'll have a better quote that I'm going to use here. Okay, so I've had a bit of a look for some quotes. Also, if you read this, it sounds like they're arguing that Mr. Whitechapel is loyal, when in actual fact you're probably wanting to argue that it's Whitechapel that's being rewarded for being loyal. So that's what I'm going to argue. And I've got a few quotes here that I'll cut and paste in as I want to. So I'm going to talk about it from the angle of the author because you want to have the author's name a lot in an essay. So it doesn't even, the author is not even mentioned in here at all. So I'm thinking about the author is creating this text and what have they done. And I think I might need to have a capital A there. De Gois characterizes Whitechapel as the loyal slave. And portrays this when he, let's say, early in the novel, when Whitechapel, sorry, bad typing, Chapel outlines how he thinks I'm just going to use a couple of those words. Compliant, obedient slaves, and I think actually, and I'm going to put live brighter. I might have to just use bits of this instead of all of it. Slaves, it might change that to have brighter lives, lives longer, live. I'm going to take the S out of there because it doesn't really fit. Should I put square brackets in there? I think I can get away without them. Live longer. Yeah. I might do this, put that in there, and then I might put and in because I've actually what I might do is put some square brackets here around and because I've added that, and cause says everyone around him a minimum of worries. Yep. So well, let's read back what I've got. So you need to keep rereading what you've written all the time when you're writing an essay. In both TLM and the 7th stage of grieving, people are rewarded for showing loyalty in the form of respect. Degas characterises Whitechapel as the loyal slave and portrays this early in the novel when Whitechapel outlines how he thinks compliant, obedient slaves have brighter, I'm going to say are brighter, live longer, and cause, going to take the S out there, everyone around him a minimum of worries. In this way, Degas shows the reader how Whitechapel's loyalty is important to how he considers slaves can be treated well. Later in the text, we see this idea reflected by Mr. Whitechapel, who describes, I'm just going to go and check that where this, I think this is a quote from Mr. Whitechapel talking to the plantation owners. I'm just going to go and check that. Yes, it does. It's in the plantation when he's talking to the plantation owners. So I'm going to use that quote again. It's not a bad quote, but it needed explaining. So later in the text, and here we're going to need a comma because it's a prepositional phrase, we see this idea reflected by Mr. Whitechapel, who defends Whitechapel to his peers, the plantation owners. Not sure if they should have capital. Are they a proper noun or not? Plantation owners, anyway. And declares Whitechapel is loyal. I'm not going to use Whitechapel again. He is loyal beyond requisition of duty. Okay, so this is, I'm going to read over what I've written again. I'll just do that. You can do it. I won't record this bit. So I'm going to transition now to the second half of the body paragraph, and I want to talk about 7 stages of grieving. So here it's gone in the playwright. Definitely the wrong use of the word. So the playwrights are Wesley Enoch and Deborah Mailman. So you can't say in the playwright, it's incorrect sort of English. So you would want to say something about, you need a transition phrase here that leads into the 7 stages of grieving. So I finished here with this reinforces their mutual respect for one another. Maybe I can continue on this sentence or not. No.